Everybody ready for the most part? Okay. I want to thank you for coming out this morning under the circumstances with respect to what's going on again in our community between people who are black and members of our police department, between young men, a young man who was committing no crime in our community, and members of our police department, a 13-year-old girl not doing anything wrong, and a violent member of our police department. Reverend Jared Maupin here, and I'm very pleased to be with both the Thomas and Johnson families today, the families of Taylor Thomas and of Javon Johnson, two of the victims of what we saw over the last couple of days, a horrific moment, a very frightening moment for our community. Again, with respect to how we're treated by the Phoenix Police Department. I want to let them talk about their experience and what they felt. But prior to that, there's a unified call that we're putting out from both of these families and their attorneys, from our community, from our faith communities, from our civil rights community, and that is that the city of Phoenix should really end their pursuit of aggravated assault charges against these two individuals. It's shameful. It's just wrong in the case of Javon. And I hope the county attorney, Alistair Adele, and John Eliason, and all the good people in that office can hear me. It's wrong to charge him with aggravated assault. In the case of Taylor, 13-year-old, a child, that's just sickening and aggravating and unthinkable. And our community just absolutely cannot accept that you're charging, you're criminalizing this child. You know, we have heard a lot from the police department over the last 48 hours. The body camera that they released was unimpressive. I think the officer who punched Taylor in the face repeatedly, mercilessly, I think her camera fell off. And so the police department released, very, what I consider to be very poor footage considering what's out in the community. I think, once again, the community's done a better job of videotaping the police than their own body cameras. And the spin that's been put out is racist unto itself. That this 13-year-old girl to my left, who has no criminal record, who's just a 13-year-old girl, was involved in some sort of car theft is just a lie on its face. To my right, this 25-year-old young man, his baby's out here with his parents. It's a hard-working young man, works at Hertz, a rental car company, responsible member of our society. He is not a car thief, has no record of being a car thief, has no involvement in the theft of automobiles. The whole narrative and scenario that's been put forward by our police department is just simply false. Were officers assaulted? No. I've provided some additional video. The family has more video we're putting out today. Never, not one time, did this young lady strike the female officer who leapt upon her and beat her face in and caused her some very severe injuries and trauma. She hasn't slept since this incident occurred. She's having nightmares in the daytime over whether or not the police are going to show up out of nowhere and finish the job. And this is a 13-year-old child in our community. In the case of this 25-year-old young man, he has to worry about the impact that this could have on his job, the impact that it could have on his child, on his family. And why? He wasn't doing anything. In the video that the people have produced, not the police department, what we see is a young man whose hands are up. They've accused him not only of assaulting an officer, aggravated assault on a police officer, but of trying to snatch an officer's gun out of its holster and do what? This is a post, George Floyd world, a post Michelle Cusseau world. Our young people know better than to do that. They know about compliance. But one thing we will never encourage them to do, and that is for them to take outright abuse from the hands of the police. Everyone has a right to shield their body from outright physical assault. Everyone has the right to do that. And that's the only thing that they're guilty of, is protecting themselves from body blows. If you look at the way that the police handled this young man and this child, I don't think any person, black or white, Jew or Gentile, Protestant or Catholic, rich or poor, would want to be touched that way or would want their children or their loved ones touched in that way. And it's unfortunate, but thank God that there's video that allowed us to see what was going on. Tomorrow, the family and their attorney, David Dow, will be joining me to talk with folks from the Department of Justice. We think that this case highlights exactly why they're here and investigating Phoenix police for use of force issues, conduct issues, and integrity issues, issues with race and the way the department views the community. I think by Monday or Tuesday, the notice of claim will be prepared and served on the city. We'll certainly share that with all of you. I want to say this to the city council and to the mayor and to the police chief and the city manager who's black, the police chief who's black, the new integrity or accountability official with the city who's monitoring police who's black. It's happened again. And it's happened under their watch, and it's high time that they do the right thing and not charge these two victims with aggravated assault, but charge the officers who assaulted them and violated their civil rights, charge them with aggravated assault. And if these charges aren't dropped, we will have to march and rally and do whatever it takes to protect these victims of police brutality, whatever it takes to protect them, and to make it clear that the police in this city will not put their hands on black people like that. They will not put their hands on anybody like that. But let the word go out far and wide. We heard from the police union that this is what happens when you don't comply, and this is what happens when people get too close with cameras. No, this is what happens when you get recorded using excessive force and assaulting a child. The way that woman jumped on this young lady, it's just disgusting. So the charges should absolutely be dropped. I want now for her to come forward. She's in a lot of pain. But I want us to hear from Taylor how you're feeling, after everything.
I feel devastated. I feel like I can't trust the Phoenix police officers no more. After this incident, I can't sleep. I can't do anything that I used to do before the incident. I'm scared and terrified of what can happen again to anyone. Child, adult, it doesn't matter. I just feel like that something should happen for what have been done to not just only me, but to the guy next to me. But that's how I feel.
Taylor, can you describe your injuries where you were hurt? If you can step up, I know it's difficult. You could step a little bit closer.
It hurts. I was hurt right here. didn't know what the next step was going to be. I didn't know if I was going to be unconscious or not. I don't even know what my family would have done if anything would have happened to me.
Did the officer say anything to you?
She just said that all she said was to me was that I don't care if you're a minor, you're going to jail.
How does that make you feel?
At the moment, my heart was racing and my head was all over the place. And I didn't know what to do but to ask my aunts to not let them take me.
When you were first touched, what were you thinking?
I don't know, I paused. I was scared.
Why do you think that officer did that?
Take your time.
I can't say.
In the recent days, talking with their family and hearing from people from all over the country, some of their families from Indiana, some of their families from Alabama, I think it's important to acknowledge and applaud the courage of this young woman at 13 taking all this on, but she comes from strong people. She's a grandniece of Claudette Colvin, and that's a name that a lot of people aren't as familiar with as Rosa Parks, but that's the woman who was arrested for refusing to give up her seat on a bus in Alabama before Rosa Parks. And this has been extremely stressful for their family. Her grandmother there to her left, we may hear from her in just a moment, moved her family to Phoenix, Arizona from Fort Wayne, Indiana, because she wanted them to be safe from police brutality and racism. And it's just been heartbreaking that a pioneering civil rights family relocates here and goes through that. So let's hear. We'll hear more from Taylor, but let's hear from her grandmother too, and who is also her mother. This young lady's mom passed away when she was a small child, and her grandmother's raised a real kind and articulate and peaceful young woman. And then we're going to hear from Javon Johnson, the other victim of what occurred in his parents and what the hell he's been put through.
Can y'all make sure to step up close?
Yeah.
I think we're having some issues.
Okay.
The wind's blowing a little.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm Sharon Thomas Bradley. I'm Taylor Thomas' grandmother. I moved here in 2014. I came here to Arizona to try to observe it, to look over it, to see if this was a place for my kids, because I knew that the doctor had said it was a place for my health, to better my health. And I moved here, and I've been here 8 years. Luckily and unluckily, Taylor moved here a year after me due to the fact she lost her mom. Her mom passed away January the 19th, and I moved her here thinking that this would be a place that she can grow up, not knowing that this would happen to her. I wasn't even with my granddaughter when it happened. I couldn't even get to my granddaughter when it happened. And I know she felt like, where's my grandma? Why is my grandmother's not here? But on the other hand, I'm glad that someone, even the Lord, was there with my granddaughter. I mean, I don't know what prompted the situation, but to look at that video, I couldn't even look at the video. Simply because my baby daughter all I could hear is her holler, "She's a minor, she's a minor." And so I couldn't touch the phone. I really still haven't looked at it because I know I have a heart problem. And if I look at it, I know it's devastating. How can an officer do that to a child? 2 children. Who is to protect? They say they did protect our children, but our children ain't gonna feel protected after this. How is they gonna trust them? And my granddaughter, she have had tremendously relationships and conversations. They found her to be a terrific child. They didn't think that a child her age was so talented. I brung her up in the church, as I did my whole family, tried to teach them the right way to go. So with the officer saying my granddaughter did, she know better. She would never put her hand on an adult because she knows the consequences. She's a friendly child. Everybody, everywhere I go, I'm looking like, you talking about Taylor? Oh, Taylor is a nice child. Taylor is a very helpful child. She helps with their children, her cousins. She got so many of them till you wouldn't believe how she would go out for them. I mean, we could be at the store and all of a sudden she'll pick up something and say she's giving it to one of her cousins, and out of no reason. So can you tell me, why did the Phoenix Police Department do that to my grandchild? It needs to be something said and done about this. That young man, he have a bright future. Him and Taylor both. And what are they trying to do? Cut it down at a young age? That is not fair. That is not fair, and I thank God the Reverend and the rest of my family and all is here to support us, because no telling where this would go. They said no justice, no peace. Where is the justice so that we can have peace? My granddaughter have not slept. I can't sleep. We sleep together. I hear her hollering, "Get off of me. Stop, get off of me." Ain't nobody there. Repeatedly. And this is frightening for her. It's frightening for all of us. So with that being said, justice do need to be served for these young people. It's wrong.
What's the most emotional part of all of this for you as a family?
Just the fact, seeing them, how they attack and torture, and then for her to say, I don't know if she had children or not, nieces or nephews, but to say, I don't care if she's a child, if she's 13, why would you say something like that?
If I may intercede, we want to see the full body camera and recordings. As her grandmother said, for her to say she doesn't care that she's a minor, but later on, Taylor, if I'm not mistaken, for her to be in the precinct or holding facility, and while she's being fingerprinted, have to hear that officer refer to her as a little bitch. The little bitch did this, and the little bitch did that. This is a 13-year-old child, a human being made in the image of God. Nobody's footstool, and certainly not that 5-letter word. Where is the professionalism of this department? What in the hell is going on with our police department here? Why is it happening? They're terrorizing people. I want us to hear from this young man. He's 25. And according to our police department, one of the most dangerous people in our community, right? Hardworking father, son. got siblings and family playing Pop Warner football, good people in the community, loved by this community. Faith in police shattered. And I want to mention this because he may not mention it, but we're going to mention it. A person who's been harassed, like a lot of teens and a lot of 20-somethings by this police department who are black, South Phoenix residents who are black. This mother's son's being harassed by the police. We're going to be talking about that in coming days too, patterns of police harassment. Who's lived with the trauma of not being able to prove it before today, but being able to prove it and talk about what happened. I want to bring him forward, Javon Johnson, to talk about what he survived and push back against this false narrative that police have put out. This is a very nonviolent young man, believes in nonviolence and civil rights. It's just awful that his parents have to be here, and his parents are incredible people in our community. But it's awful that they had to be here under these circumstances to talk about what's happened to their son. And what breaks my heart is that the next generation, I don't know where the baby is, can't even be held by the parent as a result of what happened. So with that,
I don't have a whole lot to say, but first and foremost, I just want to thank God that I'm here and well. The police department, Phoenix PD, they failed us, the system, and at the end of this, I'm just looking for justice for me and the young lady sitting next to me, because nobody human should be treated like that. It's just inhumane, and I'm just looking for some type of peace within the community and the police department. My injuries are my leg, the back of my neck really hurts from the knee being pressed on. My hands are really bad. My thumb, I have no feeling in the top of my thumb. And it's just this, I'm traumatized by the whole incident.
Can you talk about, what happened from your perspective?
I think one thing that's bothered this young man and Taylor is having to explain that they weren't doing anything wrong. He was riding in a car with people that one of whom he knew. They got out, they were standing there. No one was fighting, no one was stealing any cars, no one was dealing any drugs, no one was touching any guns, no one was abusing any women, no one was doing anything awful in the community. They were just there. You got a right to be there. And when police encountered him, he and the other young man have said repeatedly, all they did was put their hands up to show that they were not a threat and that they were not trying to harm the officers or anybody else in the area. And on the way over here, and before this morning, talking to him, it's very frustrating for black youth today, I think, to keep explaining, as I said, that they weren't doing anything wrong. It really is angering to them. I don't know how else to explain the answer to that question other than they weren't doing anything wrong. They were just going about their daily lives, as people in our community often do. I think Taylor was getting some ice cream for some kids, and he was there. I mean, I wasn't there, but from talking to him, he appeared to be just hanging out, which is still something you can lawfully do in our country. And now they're facing charges of aggravated assault against a police officer. Who touched who first? And then when they did touch the police officers, well, how and why were they doing it? They were shielding themselves. Do you see the way the officers touched in the video that we sent this young man's neck and what they were doing to him on the ground? And that officer, I love the video from Phoenix PD. I love it. I think it should be on Comedy Central every night. because it shows the officer not touching Taylor at all. But then when you look at the video we sent, which was taken from above that they did not know about, you see that officer punching her in the face, grabbing her, twisting her around. Once she's on the ground, she's not two-piecing her, she's six-piecing her. A 13-year-old girl against a you know, some sick version of Wonder Woman. This is awful. It's absolutely awful. And these charges, the county attorney and our city leaders, they should be ashamed of themselves for continuing to try to charge these people with aggravated assault of a police officer. The police need to be investigated for this. We have to go to the FBI, we will. They must be investigated for their actions of aggravated assault against a minor child and a 25-year-old unarmed, law-abiding black male in this city.
Hey, Jared, I got a question.
Yeah.
Was there any exchange with that female officer at the beginning, before the arrest started, with her?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No, sir. Nope.
And then another question is, are you the aunt?
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you guys back her up when all this started happening before the arrest?
Oh, hold on. You mean prior to the physical contact?
Before, when the police first showed up.
Why didn't they back who up?
Back her up, away from coming up to them trying to make the arrest.
Well, one, and I'll let her speak to that, but one, thank God we can get close and videotape what's going on. We're not going to ever apologize for being close enough to catch these officers on tape doing what they're doing. And I've heard from the police union, and a lot of what PLEA is saying is we need a law to keep people back a certain amount of feet. That's all nonsense, okay? They want to keep us from being able to video what's going on in our community. So I applaud the young lady for being brave enough to bear witness. You know, so, we got a hymn in the black community that said, "My soul is a witness for my Lord." Sometimes bearing witness is the most important thing we can do. We need more people to do that. So I applaud her for being brave enough to do that. But I think, and I'll certainly let her aunt speak to that, that the reason she was out there is the same reason why all of them were out there. To see with their own eyes what this police department was doing to this young man for no good reason. Again, this is all spawned from a poorly executed call about a vehicle theft that none of these people were a part of. We have to remember where this spawned from. You know, would you like to speak to why you all were out there?
We were out there. I came out because Taylor was yelling. I heard her yelling, so I came out. I seen officers with guns and dogs running to the opposite way, so I ran down there. I seen a black male on the ground with multiple officers on them. I started recording from there. Once I seen that the officers were all on him, I kept recording. We were all trying to get close to record. It's a freedom of speech. We have the right to talk. I don't feel like that we have to keep our voice inside and not speak about what officers are doing. She was, yes, I couldn't stop her. We have the right to speak. Officers didn't have the right to put their hands on her. So there was no point in stopping her. She wasn't doing anything wrong. All she was trying to do is video record. And I don't feel like that we should have to stop video recording officers so they can keep getting away with anything.
So it's your impression that this was an unprompted response from the police to you and your family?
Well, to your.
Let me load these mics just so we can see. Sorry about that. This is being fed back live.
To your question, for context. Okay, you got 2 or 3 people that were arrested, unarmed, nonviolent, not tied to the crime of a car theft. One's 13. And you look at the way police handled that situation based on their perception of threats. Then you look at the arrest in Tempe of Charles Ryan, our former director of prisons, whose wife calls the police in the middle of the night because he's up drunk again, probably committing acts of domestic terrorism and violence, and he has a gun, and he's not only shot himself, but potentially can shoot everybody in his vicinity. Nobody punched him in his face. Nobody tackled him to the ground. Nobody damaged his hands or his neck. Nobody called him a bitch or out of his name. Nobody brought out dogs. Nobody held a gun to his head. Nobody did any of those things. And really, I know of a lot of scenarios where people get arrested in these cities. And based on who they are and the color of their skin, they're treated differently by police.
But in the context of this situation, just so I understand, police arrived and then attacked the family without anything, without any exchanges? Police
arrived with the false assumption that these individuals were involved in the theft of an automobile and proceeded to act like, bullies and impolite. I can only ask my people how they feel when the police are talking to them. I'm sure everyone felt talked down to, and hostility and disrespect in general, that sort of thing. And then it proceeded to get, I don't know why it got violent. I mean, the young man's hands were up. He never hit an officer or went for the gun. You tell me why they get so rough when they're arresting people. The young lady walked over towards them. You would have thought she had a knife out and she was gonna shank the officer or something. She was just walking. And then came the beating. Then came the ape-like beating from the female police officer. I've only seen, only thing worse I've ever seen attack a child like that was a chimpanzee. It was just absolutely unthinkable. So I don't, and help me, folks, if I'm having problems understanding the question, but the hostility was there as the police arrived and the entire time. They are the ones with the aggression. Look at the body language. Look at the way they were patrolling and telling people to get back and stay back. And you see in the video, you see them talking to my people like they're not human beings. And part of the reason why we're out here today is to tell them, you're not going to talk to us that way.
Right.
We don't have to take that from you.
Amen.
You're not going to put your hands on us anymore.
Amen.
You're not going to touch our children this way and get away with it. We're not going to allow that to happen. So the calls might get tougher. To your point, it might just be harder to police our communities moving forward because of this and other incidents, because we're not going to be disrespected anymore.
Amen. Amen.
You call us a bitch, you're going to be a bitch right on back. You hit somebody, now we're not encouraging our community to hit you. We're going to be nonviolent and shield our bodies, but we're going to videotape and monitor what you're doing to our brothers and sisters, and you're going to get caught. So I'm not saying an eye for an eye. We're not Hammurabi's code. We're good, God-fearing Christian people. But we're telling you that we're not going to take this kind of abuse anymore, especially on our children. These officers, what can I guess I'll say this and then be quiet for any questions that may happen. I guess we're going to have to wait until the police jump on the right white 13-year-old girl and beat her like that.
Right.
And I guess we're going to have to wait until the police accuse the right white 25-year-old of stealing the car.
Yeah.
Maybe the Governor Ducey's kids or something, and beat them that way before people can understand what we're talking about and why it's wrong. It's not right. What we saw is not okay. It's as bad as the way they treated Javon Ames and Aisha Harper coming out of that dollar store because their child allegedly stole the doll from the shelf. Don't touch my people. Don't touch God's children. Don't put your hands on black people anymore in this city.
We're not taking it. We're not taking it.
This police department is up to its knees in problems because they don't understand that you do not use excessive force and you do not put your hands on people. Now you put your hands on a young father and a 13-year-old child. A child. And you hear in the police report that them talk about the female. This is a 13-year-old girl, okay? Not some livestock.
Right.
This is a 25-year-old young man, not some livestock.
Right.
Let's talk about their age and their body size and put things in context.
These are our children.
You know, you want to put some hands on people? I tell you where to go. There's plenty of places in Levine. There's plenty of places in Maryvale. If the police want to know where there's some crime and some people that's their size that are black and they want to go toe to toe with some blacks, I can point them in the direction of crime. They know where the crime is. But these are cowardly people. These are bullies. These are people who are probably on all kinds of drugs and steroids. We would know that if we could actually test their urine.
Right.
But we can't because their union says that they're not to be drug tested. I think you got to be on drugs to put your hands on a child like that.
That's right.
I think you got to be on drugs to hang from somebody's neck the way they hung from this boy's neck. And I think you got to be really high on something if you show up and assume that all the blacks in one area are involved in the committing of a car theft.
Yeah.
When they don't even fit the reported description. You know? Thank God we don't profile the police and do what we could do to them. Thank God we don't act like the police.
Right.
But they need to get their act together. The city, Carlos Garcia, Deb Stark, Laura Pastor, Kate Gallego, Sal DeCiccio, Jim Waring, Betty Guadardo, you know them, the city council. They need to get with the city attorney. And they need to get with the city manager, Jeff Barton, and they need to call the county attorney, Alistair Adele, and her team, and they need to drop these charges of aggravated assault against these innocent people.
We're not giving up.
It's not right. It's wrong as hell, and they need to drop these charges immediately and investigate the officers for what they did, or decide that they are going to charge them. And let's commence with the injustice in the court system. Right. Let's get the show on the road. That's what our community's saying.
That's right.
Drop the charges or let's get it popping.
Mm-hmm.
Because either way we're going to get to justice, come hell or high water. Right. Any additional questions?
I just have a quick question. It's a point of clarification because I've heard it both ways. Charlene, I know that you were recording on Monday. Taylor, were you recording as all of this was happening?
Yes.
Yes. Quick question here. Some of the angles of the police camera video and their press release says that Taylor did strike the police officer. What is your response to that? Did that ever happen?
So no, Taylor never hit the officer at all. You have the body cam from up top. You have the one up close on her. Taylor's hands went up like this instead of like this. When she turned, her body turned. Her legs went up because as she's big, her legs will fall with her. So no, Taylor did not hit anyone, grab anyone, or anything of that nature.
Your name?
Shamika Thomas, I'm her auntie.
Now remember, we're just a few decades away from a young man being accused of whistling at a white woman, Emmett Till, and then being tied to a cotton gin fan and drowned in the river. Now it's 2022 and a 13-year-old black girl's out there observing something. They accuse her of hitting police officer. Now she's facing aggravated assault charges and threats of probation, and she didn't do anything but defend herself. This is really sick. really sick. But our work continues as your ancestors' work was done in Alabama to integrate the public. We're strong. Mm-hmm. And for the police department to understand we're not going anywhere. This family's not going anywhere. The Thomas family, the Johnson family's not going anywhere. You're stuck with us. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get justice. We want justice. We want justice.
Justice.
We want justice.
Justice.
We want justice.
Justice.
We want justice.
Justice.
We want justice.
Justice.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
That's what we want. That's what we're saying. And we're going to get it.
And God's going to make sure that we get this. Thank you.